Hello everybody and welcome to the Comic Gamer Movie Show, and I'm here to review WandaVision episode 5. I believe it's called A Very Special Episode. I believe that's the title of the actual episode 5 episode, and this was definitely the best episode yet, which I feel like I keep coming on here and saying that. So like I'm like, wait, you guys can't keep doing, you keep going, whoa, like I'm like, you know what, man? I think, you know what? I'm like, I was so excited because, you know, last few weeks, you know, in the beginning of WandaVision, the first 2 episodes, I was like, okay, I'm digging it. I love this. I love what they're going for. I love the spooky vibe. I love the Twilight vibe. Ooh, everything is fine, you know, like you like the one of those, like, you know, everything is fine with the smiling neighbors who are just moving through the motions, but underneath the surface there's just darkness that you just can't put your finger on, but and there's these creepy moments. I'm digging it, and and then the second episode, more and more peels out, and you don't know quite what's going on, but it's like so unique and different, and the whole sitcom thing with the whole 50s and 60s atmosphere, it was great. I was having a blast the first 2 episodes. The third episode, it was like the first 2 episodes, but even more because it's more creepy. It's peeling it more out, and then it has that creepy ending with Wanda in the end. You don't know what's happening. Then the 4th episode is the big turning point episodes. The episode to show what this. Okay, yeah, all right. We know you guys are confused. We know you guys, like, some people don't know what's going on. This is what's happening. This is the real world, the real MCU. What's going on? You get into Monica Rambeau. You get into Darcy Lewis. You get into Jimmy Woo. You get into Sword. It was great. That episode was great. It was placed perfectly so that it was placed perfectly. And like, it's gonna be that thing. Like, you gotta understand. If you look at this, like, think of this entire series as a movie. If you think of it as a movie, it all fits into place. The location of the 4th episode to like reverse flip the script and go, this is what it's like from the outside though. Like, this is what's really going on, and this is what's going on from the outside. But even when they did that, sure, you got answers, but there was still a lot of mysteries because you still didn't really get the answers to the questions that you wanted, except you got the answers to, well, this is what's going on the outside. So you got the 2 different perspectives. And then episode 5 today was the melting of the 2 episodes, was them going both. And WandaVision takes place, like, this new episode of WandaVision takes place in the 80s, and it's straight up Family Matters, Full House. It's that style. I'm talking about the from the clothes they wear, the hair, dude, the freaking actual intro for this week's episode. It was like something out of Full House. It was like Full House. It was like Full House, or what's the word? Like the Facts of Life. No, not the Facts of Life. Like, it was like kind of one of those songs. It's like dun, 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 dun. And you know, you've seen that, those old school 80 freaking sitcoms where like they show like the people in the we're like they're all walking together, and like they show like the pictures of them as babies, as adults, as kids, as together. You know what I'm talking about. It was totally some Full House shit, and it was pretty great. Like these intros have been pretty fun. Last week we didn't get one, but these intros have been pretty freaking fun. And they, like I said, they did it here. They had it was like something out of Full House. So I can't wait to see what next week's one's gonna be. But that's just like. But now the sitcom stuff, which is why they did so much, they committed so hard to the sitcom stuff in the first 2 to 3 episodes, was so that they can do this. So that now we've established a comfortableness. Now we established this is what they're willing to do, and so now they can bounce back and forth. And that's what they do this episode. They bounce back and forth between the sitcoms. But the thing is, slowly over the course of the episode, Vision starts to realize what is going on. He starts to realize that something's wrong. Like, he's already started to realize that in the later episodes, but he really starts to go. But it finally becomes too much for him to just look the other way. It becomes like there's a collection of things that just become too much for him to look the other way. Meanwhile, outside with Sword, Monica is, talking about her experience inside of the bubble, which they're now calling it the Hex because of the hexagonal shapes, and because in the comic books, if you're a Marvel fan, or if you've even watched the X-Men or anything like that, the animated shows, any animated shows, you know that Wanda, when she uses her abilities, they're called hexes. because back in the day, it used to just be that. Like, Wanda didn't have any, like, red energy. Well, I guess she's had red energy, but, like, it used to be hexes because it used to be unpredictable what would happen because her powers were described as affecting probability, whatever the hell that even means. Like, her powers are vague as hell. Like, even in the books, in the cartoons, her powers are just vague. And I think they're vague on purpose, but still, like, that's the definition of Wanda's powers in the books. She affects probability. Like I said, whatever that means. So, but that's why they call them hexes. You know, they thought it was a mutant thing. Turns out it was a freaking... There's a whole complicated whole story behind Wanda's powers. But short of it, she's both a mutant and a sorcerer. Because technically, her powers are magical, but she's still a mutant. I can't remember. I think they like retconned it that like she's not a mutant, but she just has magical powers. I don't know. Either way, she's fucking powerful. So, and they called it hexes, so now they're calling the whole bubble around, you know, Westview a hex. And Monica's talking about her experience inside the bubble, and she's talking about how she, you know, she felt she was in great pain. She couldn't control her own body. She couldn't control her own actions, really. And she felt this overwhelming feeling of grief. And you know, the episode kind of flashes a little bit of like the past events that just happened to Monica in the last episode. You know, coming back from the snap. You know, finding out that her mother was dead and all these other things. But yeah, but they said like she said she was feeling an overwhelming feeling of grief, which is basically confirmation that, cause some people thought that she went in there and like, oh, she had control of herself. No, she didn't. That's basically confirmation that Wanda is not only controlling all these people, but it's painful. She's not just controlling them. It's not one of those things where like, oh, this is how it's always been, and you just it's like, no. According to Monica, it's a painful thing because your thoughts are their thoughts are no longer your own, and you feel emotions that aren't your own either. So like he's like, oh no, it's a pain. It was a pretty painful experience being inside that bubble. But she still doesn't think that Wanda is a bad guy, out and out bad guy. Now the head guy of S.W.O.R.D., I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He thinks that she's a complete bad guy because he literally comes out and says, well, we thought that Wanda was a victim, but now we're learning that she is the victimizer. And she's pretty much taken, I think they said that town has 3,000 people in it. So yeah, she took a town of thousands of people hostage. Or is it over 1,000? I can't remember, but I know it's over 1,000. She took a town over 1,000 people hostage. So, and you know, Monica's like, no, I think there's more to it, you know. And Jimmy Woo's like, cause they got it together early on in the episode to have a briefing. And Jimmy Woo's talking about, you know, how her parents died when she was 10 years old. She was born in 1989. And then how she was experimented on by Hydra and whatnot. And she became an Avenger, and like, you know, it's even pointed out that she doesn't have the nickname of Scarlet Witch in the show. She's really just Wanda Maximoff, that she doesn't have that nickname, which everyone, like, I agree with everyone who says that she's probably going to get it from the show. In fact, I believe Kevin Feige even went as far as to say you will see the Scarlet Witch in this show, so I can't wait to see that too. But it made very clear that the S.W.O.R.D., the guy who's the head of S.W.O.R.D. really does not like her, and he's all gun-ho to kill her. I mean, that's just, you know, he's all gun-ho to kill her. And then it's kind of revealed that, yes, a lot of people last week were like wondering, did Wanda really bring Vision's corpse back and like puppeting it? Because that does kind of make a lot of things a little bit more creepier. And some people are like, no, it's not really his corpse. Well, she stole his corpse. Apparently S.W.O.R.D. had it and she stole his corpse. Now, what the head of S.W.O.R.D. wasn't talking about, all he said was she came into the facility, she used her power, she took Vision's corpse by force, and, you know, that happened 9 days ago, which I'm like, well, are you just learning about this now? Are you just letting us know about this now? Okay, like, what the hell? But what I think that, you know, he's not mentioning is when you see the footage, Vision is clearly cut into pieces, which is actually kind of shocking when I sit back and think about it, because I think Vision's body's vibranium, so I'm shocked it could easily tear that way. But I guess it's like oh, who's that? I don't know who that was. They kind of shocked me a bit, because wait, Vision's body's vibranium. Can it really just tear like that? But whatever. I mean, maybe when Thanos destroyed it, like took the stone out of his head, it kind of affected it in a way, made it weaker or something. I don't know. But the body was clearly chopped up into pieces. So they were clearly experimenting on dissecting Vision's corpse. But he didn't mention that bit. So, you know, perhaps that's why she did it, but I digress. It still doesn't take away from the fact, I know a lot of people are like trying to make it seem like, oh, well, she's not that bad, but like, it still doesn't take from the fact that she's self-aware of what she's doing. Case in point, at a certain point, Monica figures out, you know what if we send something in there that is time period appropriate? Because the only reason this stuff is changing is because it's not time period appropriate. So if it's the 80s, I mean, we saw Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel took place in like, was it the 90s or the 80s? I think it was the 80s, wasn't it? I believe Captain Marvel took place in the 80s. Ooh, man, maybe it was in the 90s? Man, I am all over the place. I think it was the 80s. But either way, you know, they already showed in Captain Marvel that S.H.I.E.L.D. had some pretty advanced technology for the time in that time period. So you know, they just got one of the old-ass S.H.I.E.L.D. like drone things, like the old big-ass thing out, and put it inside and put it through the bubble, and it made it, and they could actually do what they were supposed to do because it's an old-school vehicle. Needless to say, Wanda didn't take well to that. Not only did she walk outside the bubble and pretty much threaten everybody, but then after threatening everybody, she made all the people turn their guns and pointed at Jackass, you know, the head of Sword, and walked back through the bubble, and it appeared that she made it even stronger. Meanwhile, Vision's back at work, and Herb, the person he's been talking to basically the whole show, Herb, apparently when they sent that drone in, they put out a signal that made it somehow to the computers inside the WandaVision bubble, and it affected people, and Vision like took his fingers on the computer, you know, took the information from the computer and zapped Herb with it, and Herb came back, and Herb was freaking out. He was like, oh my God, where am I? What's going on? Where's my sister? What's going on? This is painful. You have to stop her. I mean, he is freaking out, and Vision eventually puts him back into it, but now Vision knows what's up. Now, when we get to the tail end of this, it starts to get real freaking nuts. Because I haven't talked about this, but fucking Evan Peters, I'm talking Evan Peters from X-Men, Fox X-Men, appears at the end of this show as Quicksilver. Now, the implications are endless. I still am of two mindsets of it, which I'm going to make a separate video talking about that, because, man, I might have to wait to make that video because I don't want to spoil it, but man, it was nuts. I'm not even going to get into it. I'm going to make another video talking about that, but there's a lot of implications, and some of them could be, some of them couldn't be. There's a lot of directions they can go with this, but Evan Peters showing up was a wow. Because I heard about it because I'm looking at all that kind of shit on YouTube. I'm looking at all that kind of stuff on Instagram, Twitter, everywhere I can get it. But even still, I was like, dude, they did it. I can't believe it. But, man, it was, dude, I'm not going to lie to you. That was, the tail end of this episode had some of the best acting in the entire series. At one point, Paul Bettany, once he realizes what's going on, he confronts Wanda about it. It was tense, dude. It was tense. And, like, oh, man, it was great. It was great. Look, I don't want to keep going too far on with this episode. It's funny because this video is a little longer than usual because the episode is actually longer than usual. I think the episode's like 10 more minutes, which doesn't sound like a lot, but they pack a lot in like 30 minutes, so you got to imagine how much they packed in a freaking 40. So, yeah, man, I loved it. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. It was fantastic, perfectly balanced, had both sides of the story, set up a bunch of things. There was this tiny little tension thing with Monica over Captain Marvel. Monica also was calling for a astrophysicist who Blue Marvel or Reed Richards. We don't know. I put my money on Blue Marvel. I feel like that, you know, right now Marvel's on a diversity trick, and like it'd be nothing for them to cast a big time actor as Blue Marvel. Next thing you know, fucking Samuel. Next thing you know, goddamn Denzel Washington hits the corner. Nah, I don't think that big, but it could be cool. Anywho, thank you guys for joining the Comic Game Movie Show, and did you like the latest episode of WandaVision? Please comment below and let me know, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you. Goodbye.